one of the most controversial orders in history. What secrets has the Vatican been hiding for years? Greetings! Today, we're going to talk about the notorious Jesuit order. Is it true that during the formation of the order, minted coins with the image of the devil? Whether the Jesuits really supported the policy of false Dmitry Urine in Russia? And what secrets hide this direction to date? Be sure to watch the video to the very end to have a full understanding of the Jesuit order, the emergence of the movement, and its main functions. Let us first remember how the Jesuit order was formed and what it was intended for. This movement of the Roman Catholic Church originated in 1534, and 6 years later it was officially approved by Pope Paul III. Contrary to many claims and public opinion, the Jesuit order is by no means a religious organization. It is, first of all, directly related to political action. You will ask, what about the connection with the Vatican and the Pope? And here, everything is very simple. The members of the Jesuit Society have chosen a completely new strategy of their development. So, in the period of its formation, the Jesuit order began to fulfill the following functions. First, education. Throughout the country began to open schools, and on a free basis. This function became one of the key in the activities of the Jesuits. Secondly, to help the sick and needy. For this purpose, several hospitals and even orphanages were opened. Third, the entrepreneurial function. It is no secret that the Jesuits carefully tried to occupy a special place in the field of entrepreneurship and investment. This is how the Jesuit order attracted the attention of others and even predisposed the poor and underprivileged segments of the population. The people carefully observed the activities of the Jesuits, but still, the order concentrated on the higher categories of society. Although the Jesuits chose as their main goal to teach the masses the basics of Catholicism, as well as the development of science and the promotion of missionary work, they were interested in other matters. About this, we shall speak a little later. Head of the Jesuit order. As you understand, this or that organization necessarily consists of several interrelated elements, simply the structure. So the main feature of the structure of the Jesuit order is as follows. Contrary to common perceptions, at the head of the order is not the Pope and the General. He still has another unofficial name, Black Pope. And here about the Pope of Rome, the Jesuits were not particularly worried. It is noteworthy, and that in the 16th century minted coins, which depicted this person in the form of the devil. Of course, not so immediately, but if you turn the coin from top to bottom. And then the image of an ordinary person embodied the dark side. Once, even Napoleon Bonaparte in a harsh form expressed about the members of the Society of Jesuits. The French ruler repeatedly spoke about the power of the order and called it despotic, the spread of the Jesuit order in other countries. Do you know that the spread of the Jesuits had to other countries in Europe, Asia, and America? And not for nothing. Since the 16th century, the order actively opposed the Counter-Reformation. Since Protestantism served as a denomination for the reading people who absorbed all new information, it did not leave the Jesuits alone. Especially since the latter realized Catholicism could be displaced. Hence the answer to the question of why the Jesuit order initially promoted the educational field, so that people would have a full and correct understanding of Catholicism. So, one of the pioneers in the missionary field was Francis Xaverian. He began to preach the basics of Catholicism in the Eastern countries, China and Japan. In this endeavor, the Jesuit was helped and supported by Portugal, which was interested in the economy between the countries of the East. The order managed to spread its influence on the American continent. So in Paraguay, at the beginning of the 17th century, even emerged its own state of the Jesuits. It existed there for almost 160 years. Finally, the Jesuits tried to spread the policy of their influence in Europe. True, their plans were regarded as self-serving and contrary to all norms and laws. That is why the order was expelled from France, Spain, Portugal, etc. The Jesuits also managed to visit us in Russia. This event took place at the beginning of the Livonian War. Initially, the order promised to help our state. For such help, Russian Tsar Ivan IV the Terrible even offered free land and other privileges. But when the Jesuits unexpectedly supported the policy of false Dmitry Brynin, they were chased away from Russian territory, the order of the Jesuits to date. And now let's talk about the most important thing. We draw your attention that the Jesuit order since that time has not gone anywhere. He continues his activities until now. On the vastness of the internet, you can even find a whole site dedicated to the supporters of this direction. The only thing to remember is the most important thing. There are both positive and negative sides of this direction. At the moment, it is practically no secret to anyone who is really in the subject that the Jesuit order is something more. As we said earlier, in fact, it has nothing to do with religion, and all because the goal of the Jesuits remains unchanged for many years. The main mission of the order is to create a one-world government with a one-world religion. This, in turn, suggests that the Jesuits are an entire political elite that pursues its own goals. Still, one should not forget the nobility on the part of the members of this society. For example, the Jesuit order continues its service to the Church and society. There are enlightening activities in such areas as education, charity, and support for some segments of the population. With the support of the Jesuits, colleges and educational institutions are being built to provide high-quality education for the future generation of our country. Also, supporters of the movement pay special attention to all kinds of scientific research. The Jesuit order's attention is also focused on helping the more vulnerable segments of society. They work with refugees, provide support for vulnerable citizens, and fight injustice around the world. Perhaps this is why they are committed to the goal of creating one equal state. It is also significant that today the Jesuit order adheres to the motto, "Becoming people for others." Undoubtedly, this is a great merit and honor to the representatives of this direction. But why does the Jesuit order remain controversial throughout the world? To answer this question, it is enough to remember one important detail. This is Alberto Rivera, a religious activist who devoted many years of his life to studying theories about the country Vatican. Then, one day, he gained access to the source of the Jesuit movements. There is even an entire interview dedicated to the man in question on this topic. It can be found freely available on the internet. So, when Rivera studied the sources of the Jesuit movement, he focused his attention on the following. He learned that the Jesuits identify the activity of God with the Pope. Also, the order claims that Roman Catholicism is directly related to the Christian Church. Finally, according to the Jesuits, most of the prophecies of Revelation are believed to have been fulfilled since the reign of the Roman Emperor Nero. Conclusion. Thus, the activity of the Jesuit order is ambiguous. On the one hand, members of this movement continue to carry out enlightening activity, and on the other hand, the order speaks about completely different plans, which give out in the Jesuits the very real elite of the modern world.